Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. We concentrate on the national budget handed down in Parliament this afternoon by Treasurer Patrick Pruach. If you are a smoker and or drink alcohol, the news is not good. A 5% round tax imposed. Good news for the provinces though. They are the first in allocations, taking up 25% of the total budget. Expenditure was put at 12,965 million plus kina, against revenue of 11,888 million plus kina. Treasurer Pruach told Parliament it was a tight money plan framed against low commodity prices but responsible for future consolidation.
To the economy, Mr. Speaker, I will now discuss the state of our economy. While the medium-term outlook for Papua New Guinea economy remains positive, our GDP growth in 2016 has been revised down to 2% for the 2016 budget projection of 4.3%. Non-mining GDP growth is also expected to remain positive at 2.5%, but lower than the initial projected growth of 3.2%. The exchange rate is projected to weaken against US dollar by 9.2% and the Australian dollar by 13.4%. And the inflation is projected to increase from 5.7% to 6.6%. Mr. Speaker, the revised growth projection of 2% for 2016 is due to time lag effect of the impact on our economy from external factors, such as the El Nino weather phenomenon. This resulted in an 8-month shutdown of the Oak Teddy copper gold mine and simultaneous drought and frost conditions to segments of our large agriculture base. Notable sectors that have experienced a slowdown in growth are mining and quarrying, manufacturing, and the wholesale and retail trade sectors. Growth projections in these particular sectors have been revised down. The positive medium-term outlook in agriculture, fisheries, and forestry sectors will slightly complement our moderate economic growth projections. Some of the factors that influence the downturn in economic activity in 2016 are expected to ease. Foreign exchange imbalance continues to improve as Oak Teddy mine ramps up to full production. The additional foreign exchange proceeds from the Credit Suisse second tranche syndicated loan later this year, along with the improved export revenues, should fully resolve the US dollar shortages that have also detracted from overall economic growth. The first tranche of $200 million was received from Credit Suisse in August this year. Mr. Speaker, much of this may continue to provide a continuing sense of uncertainty. But as I said earlier, we are looking forward to steady improvements in the next few years. Export revenues have stagnated at around 20.8 billion kina in 2014 and 2015, even though 2015 was the full year of LNG exports. We are now anticipating significant export growth to commence in 2016. The anticipated decline in LNG export revenues will be more than offset by a projected all-time high in gold export revenues. Additional export revenues are forecast to improve for copper, palm oil, coffee, cocoa, and forest products. Inflation in 2016 is expected to be 6.6%. higher than the 2016 budget estimate of 5.7%. The increase accounts for higher than expected 2015 inflation outcome of 6%, the gradual depreciation of kina against our major trading currencies, and the anticipation of a gradual recovery in commodity prices. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to the 2017 budget with a fitting theme of responsible fiscal consolidation for future growth and development as we head into an election year. Mr. Speaker, this government took office 4 years ago with one goal in mind. It was determined to lay the foundation for an inclusive and sustainable growth. Since taking office, we borrowed to deliver key transformative infrastructural development such as Port Moresby City roads, Ley Wharf, and the upgrade of our airports. However, the collapse in mineral prices in 2012 and the plunge in crude oil price at the end of 2014 were both totally unforeseen circumstances. The confluence of these two factors has made planning and implementation a lot more difficult. The important thing is that we have come through in relatively good shape. Although much attention and considerable criticism has been focused on public sector debt levels, Papua New Guinea, in fact, has among the lowest debt to GDP levels globally, and certainly relative to other economies experiencing the level of growth that we have had over the last 5 or 6 years. As the present government's term in office ends, Mr. Speaker, we are confident we have left behind a legacy of economic growth and diversification that will stand us in good stead in the future. The government's borrowing program over the past 4 years have been earmarked at making education accessible to children throughout the length and breadth of our country, having inherited a situation where almost a third of children did not have access to education. Funding for health has been taken to unprecedented levels, and big improvements have been made to hospitals in many parts of our country. Much work has taken place on the nation's infrastructure. Generally, increased public funding at the provincial government and district level has created opportunities for improved service delivery to our rural communities, and district authorities that have used these funds well, a lot to show for the past 4 years of development. Mr. Speaker, these are challenging times for Papua New Guinea, but as a responsible government, we have taken tough decisions, and we have made decisions in this budget to safeguard our economy, but also to better position our economy to respond to positive improvements in the global economy. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, the 2017 budget has been framed against a relatively weak global economic environment, relatively moderate domestic economic activity that has been constrained by the effects of El Nino and persistent low commodity prices. Mr. Speaker, the 2017 budget is set at 12,965.4 million kina against a revenue envelope of 11,088.8 million kina. This comprised of 9,182.2 million kina in tax revenue, 1,045.3 million kina in grants, and 1,245.7 million kina from other sources of revenue. Mr. Speaker, the 2017 budget demonstrates that O'Neill Dion government decisiveness to move the government debt to GDP ratio onto a sustainable path while supporting development over the medium term. This is reflected through enhanced opportunities for our people by building the foundation for the future development in 2017 while recognizing the need for macroeconomic stability by progressively returning to a balanced budget by 2021. Continuing to support policy priorities in education, health infrastructure, agriculture, tourism, and small and medium-sized enterprise sectors. Facilitating the 2017 general election and hosting the APEC summit in 2018. Further promoting the efficient and effective implementation of major projects through improved design, scoping, and implementation processes. Placing more emphasis on monitoring, evaluation, and compliances so as to achieve improved development outcomes. strengthening efficiency in the public sector, and focus on strengthening and improving quality of spending, particularly a clear handle on escalating public sector wage bill. Mr. Speaker, funding is carefully planned to accommodate for high priority expenditure projects that will continue to promote broad-based economic growth and adjusting government debts to GDP ratio to return to a balanced budget in 2021. Mr. Speaker, total revenue and grants for 2017 budget are projected at 11 billion and 88.8 million kina, a slight drop from the 2016 supplementary budget estimate of 11 billion 722 million kina. The weak global economic and low commodity prices has taken a toll on government revenue. Mr. Speaker, the government is aware of challenges affecting low levels of promised funding, particularly dividends from SOEs and SR's endeavors to support SOE rehabilitation and restructuring programs. All key revenue heads are lower than previous budgets and for obvious reasons. The personal income tax, the single biggest revenue item, has been revised downwards to a total of 2.9 billion kina in 2017.